Friends, brothers and sisters, welcome to Pathways of Hope, a daily reflection on the gospel and the hope that it brings to us in these times. My name is Ted and I'll be sharing some insights on the gospel for today. Today is Saturday, September 5, 2020, and the gospel for today is from Luke chapter 6, verses 1 to 5. On a Sabbath, while he was going through the grain fields, his disciples plucked and ate some heads of grain, rubbing them in their hands. But some of the Pharisees said, "Why are you doing what is not lawful to do on the Sabbath?" And Jesus answered, "Have you not read what David did when he was hungry, he and those who were with him, how he entered the house of God and took and ate the bread of the presence, which it is not lawful for any but the priests to eat, and also gave it to those with him? And he said to them, the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath." In today's gospel, we reflect on how we very often miss the point because we obsess too much on what we think is important and fail to see what is right before our eyes. The Pharisees in this account invoke the law in a hypercritical way. They took offense not because the disciples took what did not belong to them, the grain in the field, but because they did it on the Sabbath. Talk about nitpicking. But Jesus' answer was to repeat the law as the Pharisees understood it by citing to them what David himself did when he himself was hungry. He entered the house of God and took and ate of the bread of the presence, which none but the priests could eat, and then gave it to others who were with him. By citing their greatest king, Jesus was telling the Pharisees that perhaps they were missing the point, that David was more concerned with feeding those with him, and that was perhaps the higher law. Like the Pharisees, we often miss the point when we nitpick, when we focus too much on traditions, practices, and rules that become the law to us, and that prevent us from focusing on what is truly important. Many times, we may insist on enforcing the rules for a transgression and fail to see what is behind the transgression. Lawyers have a saying, dura lex, sed lex. It may be harsh, but it is the law. But Jesus tells us the greatest law, the greatest commandment. Love God with all that you have, and then love your neighbor as yourself. What is the greatest obstacle for us to follow this greatest law, this greatest commandment? Often, it is a tradition, a practice, a rule, or yes, even a law that prevents us being more compassionate, more loving, more merciful, more just, more like Jesus. My thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, says the Lord. And so when we are confronted with a choice between simply enforcing a rule or following a tradition and being more loving, more compassionate, more merciful, and more just, even if we do not strictly enforce the law or follow the tradition, Jesus in the gospel today reminds us He is Lord of the Sabbath. He reminds us, don't miss the point. I pray today for the grace to see as Jesus sees, and to go beyond simply following tradition or strictly enforcing a rule, and to focus more on following the highest law, the greatest commandment. Love God with my all, and love my neighbor as myself. I pray that you may be blessed with that same grace. Friends, if you have been made more hopeful by this short commentary, please do spread that hope by sharing this with your friends. Again, this has been Pathways of Hope, Thank you for listening. God bless us all.